Hi, good morning, and thank you so much for everyone who's joining us this morning. I'm here with Johnnie Bernhard, and we're so excited to feature Johnnie this morning as our first author series live stream of the year. And a big thank you to Southwest 66 Credit Union, our 2021 live stream sponsor. So, good morning, Johnnie. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to sit down and talk with you about your book. But first, I'd like to invite you to just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell our viewers a little bit about your history and your writing.
Thank you. I'm originally from Houston. I'm a fifth generation Texan. I married the love of my life. I met in the 80s at the University of Houston. He is from a multi-generational tradition Texan family from the Hill Country. I have worked as a journalist covering Houston as a young writer. Always loved reading. Once I started a family with my husband, I wanted to combine the reading and writing, and I went back to school and got a teaching certificate in English. I taught high school English, and at one point in my life, for about 6 years, I was an adult basic ed, GED teacher in Sarasota, Florida. And I learned a great deal. And what I learned in that teaching experience, I brought into the novel with one of the characters.
Okay, very interesting. And so you introduced that you've worked in adult literacy. So why do you feel adult literacy is so important? And how do you feel that your experiences as both an adult literacy teacher and advocate, how do you feel like that's impacted your writing?
Well, I believe the key to success for anyone in life is education. When you can read and write, that is a freedom and an opportunity no one can take from you. And I believe it was the first governor when Texas became a republic that said the one safeguard, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, the one safeguard in a democracy and for freedom to fight prejudices and ignorance is education. And so I'm a firm believer in that. I was the first one in my family that was able to go to college. My parents, particularly my mother, received her GED, was an avid reader. There were always books home growing up. And I came from a modest background, but my mother knew how important that was and opening up doors.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
spent most of my life, as a mother, as a wife, professional, either in journalism or education, and now being a traditionally published author, supporting that. Although I'm no longer in the classroom, I do a lot of volunteer work. I serve as a judge. I've served as a judge for several years with the Texas Center of the Book that does an annual contest for students, middle school and high school, called Letters About Literature. And students write letters to their favorite author telling them how much your book meant to me. It it's a door opener, not only in Texas, but in this country and worldwide. And I'm happy and very proud to support those efforts.
I think that is such an awesome thing to do, and when you told me about that, I thought that was just such a neat thing to be involved in. Um, so you kind of said that you've always kind of been in journalism, and seems like you've always had an interest in writing. Did you start writing as a child, or is it something you started doing kind of later on?
Well, I was an avid reader as a child, thanks to my mother. I had the Nancy Drew books. I love chapter books. It was an escape for me in many different ways, which I think reading is for a lot of people. And, you know, later in junior high, I wrote some very bad poetry. In high school, I was on the newspaper and the yearbook staff. When I went on to college, I was editor of the Daily Cougar. Can you imagine a daily newspaper for a university? Had a ball doing that. My junior year, I went on to be the yearbook editor. I love the people in that community. They're free thinkers, at least the ones I've come across. Um, they're just terrific people. So yeah, I wrote for the Daily Cougar. I was news and entertainment editor and editor of the Houstonian, the college yearbook, and worked as a journalist in news for several years, and then went into education.
Okay. And when did you start writing novels or begin writing books?
Well, at 50, which was a few years ago, with the beautiful gift from my family saying I could get off the fast track. I was working full time, and I took education seriously. It's not something you do for 8 hours in the classroom, especially as an English teacher. You're reading, you're grading essays, you're grading research paper. It's very time consuming if you want to do it right. So at 50, I left a job. I was public information officer, and because I wanted to write, and I knew if I didn't begin, I might not ever get that opportunity. And kudos to those writers that can work full-time jobs and produce volume of work. So at 50, I retired from the workforce. I worked for a newspaper in town where I began doing a column called On the Front Porch. And what it was character sketches of people that live in a small town. The girl with the reputation, the black sheep of the family, the people that live on the wrong side of the track. And all of this writing not only taught me time management and writing every single day, but it helped me develop characters that are later placed into novels. And so my first novel, A Good Girl, is a family saga, a lot of Texas history in it, as we follow a young lady from Galway, Ireland, leaving the potato famine. She makes her way to Galveston, eventually Indianola, when Texas is becoming a republic and land grants are available for immigrants. And she meets a German immigrant, and they begin a family in Jackson County, Texas, in the 1800s. We followed that family all the way to the 21st century, when the daughter of that last man in that family says goodbye to her father, and her granddaughter returns to Ireland because she's fallen in love with an Irish man. So it's the full circle of family, that it's never ending with family. It continues, and it's the full circle of the immigrant story.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It does beautifully, and I hope we continue that.
Yeah, and that brings us now to the book that we're here to discuss today, Sisters of the Undertow. That's in this book as well. Family is a big part of it, and it also kind of, I would say, goes full circle. You see, multiple generational stories also. I've read the book myself, and I would highly recommend it to all of our viewers. It is just an awesome book. A lot of great things to take away from it. Would you mind, without giving too much away, share a little bit about the book?
Well, Sisters of the Undertow came out end of February 2020. I was able to do a few events in Texas and San Antonio, and then COVID shut it down. I'd like to thank you, the Pulpwood Queens, and all these organizations that did Zoom events to keep authors alive in their books during the shutdown with COVID. I'm so grateful. But the story is two sisters, and we can look at them, which I think you find many times in a family, a yin and a yang, born from the same biological father and mother, yet so different in personalities and outcome of life. So this is the story of the two sisters, one that in society's view is perfection. She's beautiful, she's academically gifted, she's athletic, yet she's very much afraid to love and to trust people because of the things that happened to her along the way. We met her younger sister, who was born at 29 weeks during the 70s, where medicine could not do as much for preemies as they do now. So this little sister had learning disabilities. And that's back to my adult ed days where I was able to learn so much from my students and how they learned, and also some physical disabilities. So this is the story of their lives, and they are polar opposites. We meet them as little girls who love each other very much in Pasadena, Texas. And this is before they realize how the world is viewing them as women.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get that world view and peer view and dating and that whole scene, these are just two little girls that love each other dearly before they realize there is a huge difference between them.
Yeah. I thought that you portrayed that so well in your book. And now I would like to invite you to go ahead and read a little bit for our viewers.
Thank you. So in the preface, I took something from the Book of Wisdom that will really help the readers understand the theme of Sisters of the Undertow. And this is it. Wisdom is brilliant. She never fades. But for those who love her, she is readily seen. By those who she is readily found. She anticipates those who desire her by making herself known first. Whoever gets up early to seek her will have no trouble, but will find her sitting at the door. Chapter 1. She was different. I knew this when I was just a child. Not in the sense I know now, but rather as an uneasy feeling in the stomach. Anxiety I wasn't old enough to recognize. I was fair. She was a brunette. I was lucky, Kimberly Ann, the pretty girl, smart sister, whose name was always called for the correct answer. She was unlucky, Kathy Renee, the plain and troubled sister whose name was never called at all. We were sisters. I loved and hated her. We shared a double bed during our childhood. The only thing changing during those years was the bedspread. Sometimes it was purple and nubby, scratching our tender skin when we pulled it up to our chins. Sometimes it was simple quilt, never a Dutch doll or a star-flowered pattern, but one made from our worn-out clothes, sewn together with a clever stitch. For the longest, our bed was covered in a white chenille with fringe trailing on the hardwood floor. It changed with time, but my sister, the little girl I slept with every night, remained the same. While I played the clarinet in the junior high band and won ribbons, she remained the same, the little girl with brown eyes, neither stunning nor intense. I think she always knew what people thought of her. She wanted to say something in return, but for many years I waited for her to say it, but I learned she was incapable of cruelty. We were born 16 months apart, of the same mother and father, yet our lives would become as different as two planets orbiting around the sun, never to fully understand each other, despite our years of circling. But in those early years, before the doctors and the education specialists, we were happy in our ignorance of each other. She didn't know I was smarter and healthier, and I didn't know she couldn't do story problems or read beyond the fourth grade level. Before I knew she would always be different, we were perfect little girls in our happy world. Our bedtime ritual was one of friendship and camaraderie, except for the nights I would inflict my privilege as the older sister. It began with a warning before the light clicked off. Stay on your side of the bed. Here's the border. Don't cross it, I'd say to her, drawing an imaginary line in the center of the bed with my index finger. She met my challenge with confusion. Thinking it was a game, she tossed her right foot over the imaginary border. This was returned with the elbow to her side. She then rolled to her side of the bed, as far away from me as she could without falling off the bed. All I could see was the wild mass of black hair, neither curly nor straight, just thick and coarse upon a pink and white pajama top, as her chest rose and fell in anguished sobs. Unlike her, I was capable of cruelty. But on those perfect nights of my early childhood, we would jump into bed at the same time, no one wanting to be first. We only thought of the immediate. There was no regrets from yesterday or anxiety for tomorrow. All we knew was to jump on the bed, up and down, laughing and holding hands. It ended when my father knocked on our bedroom door. Quit the monkey shines, girls. Those days were sealed tightly from the outside world. I didn't know what was fair and what was unfair. I didn't know about luck, that random toss of the dice determining who you will be for the rest of your life. I didn't know that my sister had an IQ of 85. My dad didn't know either, but I think my mother knew all along and hid it from us. The one certainty I knew in my childhood was every day would end the same way. My sister lying next to me in our double bed. Light out, sissy. Night, night, cat, cat. I'd click the light off between my thumb and index finger as perfect silence covered us, erasing any imaginary border that had come between us the night before. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. um, there are some awesome themes running through the book, and you kind of touched on them when you were introducing them. But as you mentioned, some of the major themes would, in my opinion, be the idea of fate and also self-love, or in some cases, self-loathing. And I just wanted to ask, why do you think it's important to address and discuss those themes?
Well, I believe the theme of fate, particularly with the sister born at 29 weeks. And, you know, what really inspired me for that part of the book is that I was watching the morning news, a national broadcast, and there was a very beautiful young woman married to an NFL player who had suffered miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. Now, see, what we see on the surface with people, and that's why this novel is called Sisters of the Undertow. But on the surface, we see this beautiful young woman, wealthy, married to an NFL player. Her life must be perfect, yet it wasn't. And so fate comes along into people's life and may damage, hurt them in a way that they keep below the surface. It takes great courage to address it in the open, which is what this young woman was doing. However, our protagonist, Kim, is not able to do it. She doesn't have the courage. She doesn't have the self love. She is consumed with self loathing because of this. And without doing a spoiler and giving away the book, water is a huge symbol. It takes a catastrophic event, Hurricane Harvey, to move that needle for Kim. So it's a baptism of sorts.
Yeah. Awesome. And just to remind everybody, we can take questions from viewers. If you leave a question on the Facebook video, we'll go ahead and share that here if anyone's interested. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead to my next question, which is also, in the book, there's a big focus on female relationships, in particular, the relationship between the two sisters. And so I wanted to ask you, what do you find interesting about writing about strong female relationships? And also, as a female writer yourself, why do you think it's important?
Well, all three of my novels are about women in different stages in their lives. And I was very fortunate to do a TED Talk in November of 2020. It's on YouTube, where I spend a great deal of time discussing the roles women play and what we learn in each role and how we should support each other. It's not about. It takes a long time to find that wisdom, and that's why I began the reading with that passage from the Book of Wisdom. It takes a long time to gain that as a woman. So I think older women are not invisible women. I think their knowledge, their understanding of life makes them sexier and smarter than they've ever been. And I think we should be mentors to younger women that are trying to navigate the very difficult world we live in. Just to help you understand in a matter of 20, 30 years in the relationships between women and men and women, which I address both in the novel. We went from calling someone up on a dial phone or writing them a note in class, breaking up with them in a text message in warp speed.
Yeah.
I think today's young women navigating relationships with men and men navigating relationships with women, I think it is far more difficult than it used to be. I think it's important that our human story, which sibling rivalry is, relationships between women, relationship between men and women, that's universal. That's all over the world. I find it interesting during COVID as the lockdowns became very severe in some countries, particularly France. People started sending me messages on Instagram because they're in lockdown, they're lonely, they want to connect. And I think looking at the protagonist, Kim, and the life she chose it. There were things fate brought to her, but she chose a very lonely interior life. I think that's difficult for people. Loneliness is probably the most difficult thing to navigate as individuals. And COVID certainly has taught us that. So I do write about relationships with women. I write about women's different stages, and in every novel, there is a mentor to a younger woman. There is a character that comes along and pulls that character up and says, hey, whether it's a shelter dog, again, a shelter dog, dismissed, unloved, unwanted, just like the homeless in the book. Kim becomes a librarian. Fate brings her to a library in downtown Houston where most of the patrons are homeless. It's a lesson about humanity for the protagonists and an insight into the human family, that everyone is looking for home, acceptance, and to be loved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there, like I said, there are so many positive things, and so many things to learn from reading the book. But as the author, if you were to pick one thing that you would hope your readers would take away from their reading experience, what would you say it is?
To love yourself with acceptance for who you are and where you've been, and to take responsibility for that, and then let it go. Let it go. It's in the past.
Yeah.
And to love and accept others. Really nothing greater in this life. To love and accept others.
Yeah.
And that was the secret to the happiness for the younger sister. She was all about love. She had lots of friends. She didn't see color. She didn't see socioeconomic background. She simply enjoyed people, and that's why she was happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to ask, in the book, Kim, the older sister, is a big reader, and throughout the book, she mentions books that she's reading as we go through time. Are those some of your personal favorite books? And would you mind sharing some of your favorite books and authors?
Yes, absolutely. Gabriel Marquez, a writer from Colombia, he's passed away, and I remember the day he died. I was so sad because I thought that talent, there'll be no more books. Of course, Pat Conroy, Barbara Kingsolver, those are some of the writers from the past. I just love great storytellers. I'm fortunate to read a lot of debut authors from all over the country. Everybody has a story. Everyone has a story. And I tell you something I learned in 1983 at the University of Houston. I was taking a creative writing class. The professor's name was Nashaka Shenge. She had some plays on Broadway. Her biggest book was When Colored Girls Considered Suicide, When the Rainbow Wasn't Enough. This teacher was on fire, on fire. Her passion in the classroom. She assigned 100 Years of Solitude to read in a week and to write an essay. We met for the class after the assignment, and that's not an easy book to read in a week, but it's a greatly written book. And I remember when we met that following week for the class, and she began talking about the novel, and she realized we had become silent. She said, raise your hand if you haven't read the book. And many people raised their hands. And she started crying because she was not only hurt, she was angry. And she said, you don't know how lucky you are to read any book you want to have that privilege. And I never forgot it. I never forgot it. So, in saying that, kudos to those beautiful teachers in adult literacy that is bringing that passion for education and reading to the classroom, to the writers all around the world. It's a difficult business, but they're in love with story. And thanks to all those nonprofits that struggled during 2020 to keep bringing books and writers to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just about out of time, so I want to finish by asking you, what's next? What do you have on the horizon for next year?
Well, for my Permian Basin readership, I've just completed my fourth novel. It's between several. I've had 2 contracts offered from publishers. I haven't signed one yet. I've got a deadline, but that novel, Hannah and Arella, which is the story of a 73-year-old woman living close to the Permian Basin on a ranch, and the story of a Mexican national girl from the border who meet by fate. I'm very happy to bring that story to print. Very excited for it.
That's so exciting. Well, we really hope, maybe we can have you back next year to discuss your new book when it comes out. It's been such a pleasure having you here today. I loved listening to your reading and really enjoyed the book. Just as a reminder to anyone who hasn't read it, we do have the link here in our video post. I really encourage you to try it out, support a local native Texan author, and you won't regret it. So, Johnnie, thank you so much for being here today. It really has been a pleasure. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. So we'll see you next month for our next author series live stream. And thank you so much, Johnnie. We can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you. My pleasure. Everyone stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.